Have you ever wondered how a nation breaks the chains of colonial rule?
How a people's struggle for freedom can reshape a country forever. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of one of Africa's most significant liberation struggles, the Second Chimurenga, the war that gave birth to modern Zimbabwe. To understand the Second Chimurenga, which raged from the mid-1960s to 1979, we first have to look back.
The name itself, Chimurenga, is a Shona word for revolutionary struggle. The first Chimurenga took place in the 1890s, a fierce but ultimately unsuccessful uprising against the British South Africa Company's occupation of the land.
Though suppressed, the spirit of that resistance never truly died.
It simmered for decades, passed down through generations, becoming a powerful source of inspiration. So, what lit the fuse for the second, much larger conflict?
The root causes were deeply embedded in the colonial system of Rhodesia, as the country was then called.
First and foremost was the issue of land.
The Land Apportionment Act of 1930 had divided the country's territory, giving the best, most fertile lands to the small white minority, while pushing the vast black majority onto less productive, overcrowded reserves. This wasn't just an economic injustice.
It was a profound spiritual and cultural wound, severing people from their ancestral lands. Then there was the pervasive racial discrimination. Black Africans were treated as second-class citizens in their own country. They faced limited educational opportunities, were barred from skilled jobs, and had no political voice. They were required to carry registration certificates, a constant reminder of their subjugated status. Everyday life was filled with indignities designed to enforce a system of white supremacy.
In 1965, the situation escalated dramatically.
The white minority government, led by Ian Smith, made a unilateral declaration of independence, or UTI, from Britain.
Their goal was to entrench white minority rule indefinitely, cutting off any path to majority rule. This act was a clear signal to the black population that peaceful negotiation was off the table. The only path to freedom, it seemed, was through armed struggle. From this fertile ground of oppression, nationalist movements grew.
The two most prominent were the Zimbabwe African People's Union, or ZAPU, led by Joshua Nkomo, and the Zimbabwe African National Union, or ZANU, which later came to be led by Robert Mugabe.
Initially united, ideological differences and strategies led to a split. ZAPU, largely backed by the Soviet Union, had its main military wing called ZIPRO.
ZANU, supported by China, formed its own army, the Zimbabwe African National Liberation Army, or ZANLA.
These weren't conventional armies facing each other on a battlefield.
The Second Chimurenga was a guerrilla war.
ZANLA and ZIPRO fighters, often called Vakamane or the Boys, operated from bases in neighboring countries like Mozambique and Zambia, who were sympathetic to their cause. They would cross the border, often under the cover of night, to launch attacks on Rhodesian military patrols, farms, and infrastructure.
Their strategy was to win the hearts and minds of the rural population. Fighters lived among the people, sharing their food and their struggles. They held all-night political education sessions called panwes, where they would explain the goals of the liberation struggle through songs, chants, and discussions. These gatherings were crucial for mobilizing support, gathering intelligence, and recruiting new fighters. The villagers, in turn, provided food, shelter, and information, forming the backbone of the resistance. They were the sea in which the guerrilla fish swam. The Rhodesian security forces, on the other hand, were a well-equipped professional army. They responded with brutal counter-insurgency tactics. They created protected villages, which were essentially concentration camps, to isolate the rural population from the guerrillas. This tactic often backfired, causing immense suffering and further radicalizing the people. The Rhodesian state also employed infamous units like the Sellers Scouts, who would pose as guerrillas to infiltrate and sow confusion. The conflict was brutal and unforgiving, with immense human cost on all sides.
The war intensified throughout the 1970s. ZANLA opened up a new front from Mozambique after its independence in 1975. Stretching the Rhodesian forces thin, major incursions and battles became more common. The fighting was no longer confined to remote border areas. It spread throughout the country, bringing the reality of war to the doorstep of the white minority.
International pressure was also mounting.
The United Nations imposed economic sanctions on Rhodesia after UDI, though they were often circumvented.
Neighboring African states, the frontline states, provided crucial diplomatic and military support to the nationalist movements. The global political climate was shifting against colonialism. and the Smith regime found itself increasingly isolated on the world stage.
By the late 1970s, it was clear that a military victory for the Rhodesian government was impossible. The economy was collapsing under the weight of sanctions and the cost of the war.
White morale was plummeting as immigration increased and casualties mounted. The war was simply unsustainable. This stalemate paved the way for a political solution. The British government, under pressure from the Commonwealth and the United States, convened a peace conference at Lancaster House in London in late 1979.
After 3 long months of intense and often bitter negotiations, a historic agreement was reached.
The Lancaster House Agreement laid out the terms for a ceasefire, a new constitution that included universal suffrage and internationally supervised elections.
The agreement was a monumental achievement.
It marked the official end of the Second Chimurenga and the end of white minority rule. In February 1980, the people of Zimbabwe voted in their first ever democratic elections. Against many predictions, Robert Mugabe's ZANU party won a landslide victory.
On April 18, 1980, the British flag was lowered for the last time, and the flag of the new, independent nation of Zimbabwe was raised.
A new era had begun. The legacy of the Second Chimurenga is complex and continues to shape Zimbabwe today.
It is a story of incredible sacrifice, heroism, and the unyielding desire for freedom and self-determination. The war created a powerful sense of national unity and identity. However, it also left deep scars. The political culture forged in the crucible of armed struggle has had a lasting impact on the nation's governance.
The unresolved issue of land, a primary cause of the war, remains a central and contentious topic in Zimbabwean politics. Understanding the Second Chimurenga is essential to understanding modern Zimbabwe.
It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just something we read in books.
It's a living force that shapes our present and our future. The struggle for land, dignity, and sovereignty is a story that resonates far beyond the borders of Zimbabwe, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of oppression.
Thank you so much for joining me on this historical journey. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the events that have shaped our world. Let us know in the comments what other historical topics you'd like us to explore. Until next time, stay curious.